What's up, guys? Silver here with another Halo Master Chief Collection Achievement Guide. This time we're doing Part 5 of our Halo 2 LASO walkthrough. This is the Oracle, and this is a mission where you start off directly after the previous mission, and you actually carry over all the weapons that you had when you ended that mission. So whatever you ended the mission, the Arbiter, with, that's what you're going to start off with here. If you followed my previous guide, you probably have a full carbine, along with an energy sword, and probably full nades as well. But if you have a different set of weapons, don't worry about it. It's still totally doable with whatever weapons you happen to have. But we're going to start off by meleeing and killing this grunt. We want to do that so we get our shield up. Due to the Black Eye Skull, we could get up to a double overshield. So now we have a single overshield on top of our regular shield. So we're going to move into here now. We don't want to kill any additional enemies on top of that, or additional friendlies rather, because they might actually turn on us if we kill too many of them. But we're going to go in here and we're going to kill these flood forms on the ground. They're not alive right now, but there's going to be a bunch of infection forms, those little popcorn flood that run around this room shortly. And if those guys are still hanging around, they actually reanimate and will start attacking you. So you want to make sure that you slice them with your sword so you totally destroy their bodies. If you don't have a sword in the beginning of this mission, you will get one in this room. There's one lying on the ground, so feel free to pick that up and slice these guys. And you can see that I just picked up a couple carbines. There's two in this room on the ground. They don't have much ammo, but if you didn't bring a full carbine from the previous mission, you'll want to grab that, and then we're just going to sit around here, and there's some dialogue occurring, and we just kind of have to play the waiting game at this point. There's going to be those popcorn flood that flood this room, no pun intended, that I mentioned earlier, so we're just kind of waiting around. We don't really have to pay too much attention to those flood either. They're just going to run around, and our friendly AI here are basically going to take out all of them for us. So we can kind of just hang back, wait for them to do their work here. You could chip in if you want. Another thing you could do while you're waiting is possibly try to melee some of these infection forms. It's kind of tough. It's a lot easier to do in Halo 1, in Halo CE, so you could get your shield up. But it's a little tough in Halo 2, so you might want to just sit back and just allow your friendlies to take everybody out so you don't risk having those infection forms actually jump onto you and lose some of your shield. You lose a lot more shield in Halo 2 from infection forms than you do in Halo 1 as well. So dealing with Halo 2 infection forms is just all around worse, it seems. But I would recommend just hanging out. You should be fine with your single overshield because we're actually not going to engage in that much combat in this mission, especially in the beginning here. We're going to avoid a lot of it. So we should be reaching the end of this encounter. After a while, the door will open up behind us and we'll be able to move into the next section, which contains the dreaded elevator section, but we could skip pretty much that whole section. And here we go. The door is opening up. We're going to go into the elevator section and we're going to cloak ourselves at this door, run out onto the platform, the elevator itself, and then we're going to run back into the room we just came from. And you could melee one of those canisters to get some shield. I recommend not actually doing that because when you do that, you reveal yourself. I should not have done that there. But we're going to just run back to this room after we go onto the elevator. You'll notice when you walk out onto the elevator, there's a bunch of sound effects that occur, kind of indicating that the elevator is activating. So once you hear those, you want to run back to this room and just wait for about 2 minutes. So my time says 2:35 right now. I'll round up to 5 minutes. So I'm going to skip ahead to 5 minutes. And then at that point, since we've waited 2 minutes, the elevator is ready to drop. So once we go onto the elevator again, it will just start dropping at that point. So again, we're going to go over here, we're going to cloak ourselves, and then we're going to run out onto the elevator, and it will start dropping this time. And instead of descending with the elevator, we're going to jump back onto the platform, and the elevator will continue to drop in a scripted timed segment, so we could just stay up here for the time being and not have to worry about fighting all of those flood and sentinels that come and swarm the whole elevator. And sometimes a flood form or two will be on that platform with you and follow you back in here. If that happens, just go behind that white elite with the sword, half jaw, and we will be able to get him to help us out, and he'll do some slicing and dicing of his own and make that whole encounter a lot easier. But now we're back in the elevator shaft. You can see the structure on the right side is moving around. It starts off behind the center column, the center black column in the middle of the elevator shaft. It starts off behind that and then rotates to the right. You can see it's moving around now. It's going to drop down and then rotate back to the left, so it'll be behind the black column again. And then it will continue to drop, and the structure will rotate back to the right a second time. And at that point, we'll want to monitor it closely because once it starts dropping again, that's the point where we're going to jump down on top of it, actually, and then descend down to the bottom of the elevator shaft here. So we're looking at it. It's dropping again. This is the first time that that structure is on the right side. So you're going to see it rotate back towards the left, so it's behind the center column again, like I described. And it's going to get down there. Don't make me a liar now. It's going. There we go. Rotating back to the left. So that's the first time it was out to the right. Now it's going back to the left. Once it rotates back to the right a second time, that's when we want to start monitoring it. So I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit. We could see it's rotating back over to the right. So this is the second time it's over on the right side here. Now we want to stare at this thing, because once we see that it's dropping, you could actually back up a little bit if you're getting shot at and just listen, because it'll actually make a sound when it starts dropping. So I'm going to skip ahead, and then once it starts dropping, whether by sight or sound, you could start moving over here and jump down onto the top. You could cloak yourself about here and then drop down to the side, and then we could drop down here onto this frame and then drop down onto the platform down below here. And then we're going to jump on top of the door frame here, and there's going to be 2 flood forms that come out here. Sometimes they are shy and don't come all the way out. Sometimes they do come all the way out and make it a lot easier. What we're going to do here is just throw a plasma grenade down on the ground. You should have 4, because we haven't really used any at this point. So we're going to throw it down, not to stick them, but to kind of put it between ourselves and them, so when it explodes, hopefully it will actually send them over the edge, and then we don't have to deal with them at all. So that worked for one of them. The second one ran away, and I think he knows what's coming, so he is not putting himself in a position where he could get thrown off as well. So we're going to have to jump down and fight him shortly if he doesn't come back out. Just going to wait a little while longer. You could decide to wait, however long you want to. There's no real rush. The elevator is still descending, so obviously if you wait, a few minutes, the elevator will come down with a bunch of enemies. So don't wait that long. But we could jump down here now, and I'm just going to take this guy out. I have a carbine and sword, so we're going to carbine this guy to take his shield down and also make him visible so we can lock onto him with the sword. And then we'll switch to our sword and slice right through him. A nice clean cut, and now we're actually going to hang out by this door that we came from. We're going to wait for the elevator to get all the way down to the ground, or not the ground, but where we are, the level we're at, because we'll be able to actually come back here shortly. So I'm going to skip ahead. I'm just going to stand by this door and wait for the elevator to get all the way to the ground before we go to the next section here. So you can see I skipped ahead there like 40 seconds or so, 40, 50 seconds. Now that it's on our level, we're going to go to the next section. There's more carbine ammo at the end of this hallway, so you can grab that as you go if you need it. And then we're going to go on a specific path here. So we're going to take a right as soon as we get in here, hug the right side as much as you can so you don't draw any unwanted attention. And then we're going to go to the final pane of glass on the left, bust through this, grab more carbine ammo if you want to, but you need to go down here, jump up onto this kind of part of the column where you could stand, and then jump up again. You'll have to do a crouch jump there. And then we're going to go back the way we came and go back to that elevator shaft and wait there for about 10-12 minutes. And the whole series of enemies will spawn into that room even though we're not there. And the door that's locked and leads to the next section of this mission, that actually unlocks after 12 minutes, even though we're not even in that room and fighting anybody in there. So we're just going to go back into this elevator shaft here and just hang out. But before I just stand here idly for 12 minutes or so, I'm going to grab a sentinel beam. Usually there's a sentinel beam or 2 on the ground here. And I'm just going to smack and melee 3 of these canisters. They do contain an infection form each, but I'm going to get my shield up to a double overshield by meleeing 3 of them. And just make sure you quickly dispose of the infection form, ideally with a sentinel beam. That's a good weapon to take those guys out with. And then I could switch back to my carbine once I take out 3 of them. So we're going to do that now. And then I'm going to go up on top of this structure and just wait here. You don't have to wait in a specific spot. I just chose this area because it seems like a good spot. But we're at about 12 minutes, so I'll skip ahead to 24 minutes. And at that point, we can move into the next section, and we will find the door to the next section is wide open, and we didn't have to fight anybody or risk dying or do anything crazy. Just had to sit there for a nice 12 minutes of relaxation, meditation, whatever you want to do. Watch Netflix, eat a sandwich, go to the bathroom, maybe all 3. But you want to slow down once you get to this door. Sometimes there's an elite or a flood form up top here with you, and they're going to be facing away from you. You just want to give them the opportunity to jump down into the middle of the room and not risk having them turn around to fight you. Cloak yourself here and then fall down to the floor below, and as promised, this door is wide open. Go into the corner here and then go all the way to the back of this room, and you can just hang out here. Sometimes the doors close right away, sometimes it takes a while. It depends on if there's any enemies nearby near that door, causing the proximity sensors on those doors to go off and open the door up. But just hang out here, and eventually they'll kind of move around and away from the door, and the doors will close, and you'll be able to move on to the next section. So I skipped ahead about 20 seconds there. The enemies were pretty quick to move away from the door this time around. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it might be faster. It just is totally random. But you can see we're going to turn around and face the door that we had our back up against, and this door is going to open up now, and there's going to be some flood outside, some infection forms, plus a couple carrier forms, and also in the distance there's some enemy grunts as well. But we also have some friendly forces out there as well who you could help out, or you could just allow them to do all the heavy lifting here, which is pretty much what I'm going to do. You could decide to try to melee these infection forms, but you should really have a full double overshield at this point, or close to it, So you might as well just kill these guys and run with the almost full double overshield that you have probably. Sometimes the grunts over here survive, so you may have to pick off a couple with your carbine, but no big deal there. Pretty easy with the carbine. Just keep your distance and shoot them from far away. We didn't have to do that this time. They were taken out by either my friendlies or the flood or a combination of the two, but we're going to jump up on this structure and get above where we're supposed to be. We want to slide up this support structure type thing in front of us here. You can see there's not a lot of room to get a running start. You basically want to take a step or maybe a half step and then jump right before you collide with that structure, and you want to crouch and you'll slide up to the top. And it's a little tough. You probably have to practice a little bit, but you have all the time in the world. There's no rush or anything here, and you only have to do it once. So once you get it, you're done. And then once we do get up here, we want to do a series of jumps to stay up here while we move through the mission and thereby deload a bunch of enemies. If we walked through this area normally, it would spawn in a bunch of enemies, but we're avoiding that by kind of going over the load zone. So once you climb to the top of this structure, you want to look to the next structure and you want to jump basically to the ledge above the support structure, the support beam, because you can see when we land, the ledge mostly breaks our fall, but we do slide off a little bit. If we do slide off, which we probably will, that support beam will break our fall and keep us up on top there. So we got one more of these jumps left, and then we're going to jump out as far as we can. There's not another structure that we could jump out onto, but we want to make sure we jump out as far as we can. We don't want to go straight down because we don't want to hit that load zone right at the end here and then have to deal with all the enemies behind us. So now we're going to make our way up this ramp, and once we get to the top, we want to zoom in and check on the other side, because sometimes there's a grunt that you could see and you could pick him off with your carbine real quick, but I don't see him, so we're going to go up here and do the same thing. This slide jump is a little easier than the first one because there's no support beam behind us this time, so we could get a little bit more of a running start. And then once we do get up here, it's basically the same thing as the previous section. You do want to keep checking in on that grunt though. If you didn't kill him already, you want to just keep checking to see if you could see him. Sometimes he's not even there, but you want to get the jump on him, obviously, instead of him getting the jump on you. I could see him in the distance. I can't really get a good shot on him, though, so I'm going to just keep going, see if I can get a good angle on him over here. Let's see. I could probably get him. Yeah, he's coming into view. I can't shoot him, though, so we're just going to close the gap on him before he could kill me with all those needles. I kind of just jumped over there, so he couldn't really get a good shooting angle on me. And then my friendly forces came up behind me as well to distract him, and then I could just beat the crap out of him. But one thing I should mention is sometimes there's two enemy grunts as well, so you want to be on the lookout for another grunt if you only killed one. But it looks like there's only one this time around, and there could be zero, so just keep an eye out. And also, right now, I'm looking for my friendly grunts to kind of melee so I could get some shield back, but I don't see any. They apparently died, so we're just going to go into this fight with whatever shield we have left. What we want to do here is kind of keep our distance from all the enemies. There's Sentinels, and there's also Flood. You want to try to get the Sentinels taken out pretty quickly from afar with your carbine, and then for the Flood, you kind of want to steer clear of them and kind of just shoot them with your carbine from far away. That will get them to have their overshield, or not their overshield, their active camouflage overloaded, and then they will become visible to your friendlies, and your friendlies will actually start chipping in and fighting these guys because they don't initially, since they can't see them. But just try to keep your friendly elites in between you and the Flood, so that way the Flood will attack your elite friends instead of you, and they will do some good damage to the Flood as well while you're chipping in from behind them. So you can take them out easily with some headshots, quote-unquote. The headshot location is kind of in the chest of the Flood. And if they get close up, you want to sword them. One thing you want to note, though, is you don't want to try to sword them if they're right next to an elite. Friendly elites could actually one-hit melee kill you, so try not to get wrapped up in that. Once that room is clear, you're going to get a cutscene, and then you're going to come out of it. You want to turn to the right and then jump up on this structure, and we're going to wrap up around to the left, basically, and try to cut these corners, do these jumps so you can kind of shorten the amount of time it takes to get to the top here. You'll probably want to cloak here because there's 3 Sentinels that come down the shaft there, and sometimes they notice you, sometimes they don't. This time, one of them decided to linger up here, so we'll just take them out real quick, and the others should go down towards the bottom and fight some Flood. But we want to activate this lift from behind, so the elevator actually goes up, and then we'll get under it and activate it again. That will bring it back down, and by doing that, we're going to get crushed underneath the lift here. But don't worry, you don't have to be standing in a specific spot or anything like that. Just wait for it to come back down. It will send you up into the shaft. It'll launch you up here, and then you'll drop down, and you are now invincible for the rest of the mission. Don't turn off the video yet. There's still some important things we got to talk about, mainly how you're going to get out of here. There's a specific way to get out of here without the elevator, because remember, that elevator is now all the way down to the bottom of the shaft. So we're going to cut these cables as we would normally. You can take all the damage you want, but be aware that you could still fall into a hole and die. So we don't want that. So make sure you're kind of killing enemies as they swarm you so they don't melee you off a cliff or something. Ideally, you want to kill them before they swarm you. But we've taken out 2 of the 3 cables now. So you can see I took some smacks from behind. So I'm just going to smack this guy. Or maybe I'm not. He's just going to fall off and get sentinel beams. That's fine with me. But we're going to go over here now. This is the 3rd and final cable. and we're going to slice through this, and then you want to follow these steps pretty specifically. They're very easy. Once you cut that third and final cable, you want to calmly but quickly walk to the center of this area, so we're back at the elevator shaft. So we're going to walk right up to the edge of it, and then we're going to count 1, 1,000, 2, 2,000, 3, 3,000, and then fall down. So you want to do that timing because in the middle of your descent here, it's going to activate the load zone, and then you'll be able to fall down here without dying. So you want to fall down the elevator shaft with that timing in mind, because if you wait too long, you'll actually get stuck up there. But once you do get down here, the gravity is going to be all sorts of weird, so try not to jump. You could if you need to, but you'll notice that there's all kinds of weird gravity effects because of the glitch we just pulled off. So this next sequence will have weird gravity effects, but once we get into Banshee, things will return to normal. But like I mentioned, you could still fall into a hole, so don't do that. There's a big hole to my right now, so stick to the left. Try not to get smacked into a hole or anything like that. And if you do find yourself kind of floating around and you need to get down to the ground, just crouch rapidly, and that actually speeds up your descent back down to the ground. We'll get into a Banshee at this point. We'll turn to the left and just fly to this structure, and we'll be able to get out. There's going to be a cutscene. We'll skip that. It's kind of an homage to the Maw, it seems, where the Master Chief crashed into the Pillar of Autumn. The Arbiter crashes into this installation here. But this point is basically the Arbiter in reverse, so you'll recognize this map because it's basically the campaign mission we played before this one, but we're basically just running backwards, and we're invincible because we pulled off that glitch. So the gravity is normal now, but we're still invincible. So I'm going to skip ahead, really just run to the end, run up the ramps. If you get lost, just get to the area where you're going up ramps and just continue to go up the ramps. You want to go up, up, up until you get into the hangar. So I skipped ahead about 45 seconds, maybe a minute there. We're at the final ramp here leading up to the hangar. We're going to skip the cutscene, and then there's going to be 3 heretics, quote unquote. There's actually 1 heretic leader, that's the true heretic leader, and then there's 2 holograms as well fighting you. So you want to find the true one, which is on top of the Seraph to start here at least. But once you pop his shield and actually deliver some damage to him, he will fly away. He's scripted to fly away and then deliver some dialogue, so you won't be able to kill him all at once. You have to damage him 4 times before he falls over and dies. But you can see there's 4 holes in the upper part of the walls here. There's 2 on each side, and he will randomly be in one of those kind of talking and running his mouth, and then he'll fly out once he's done, and you could start damaging him again. So we'll kill him or start damaging him a second time, and then he'll fly away. You could be as bad as you want. You could miss sticks, you could miss shots, you could miss melees, as you can see I'm doing right now. But we're invincible here, so it's pretty much inevitable how this is going to end. Just don't walk to the end of those deactivated conveyor belts, because there's some holes over there. Don't fall into those. And I'm going to skip ahead one final time. You saw me damage him twice, and I skipped over the 3rd time. This is the 4th and final time I need to do damage to him to finish the mission. You can see he's running right at me, super aggressive, looking for that 1v1 battle. Not a great challenge. You never want to run directly at your opponent, especially if he's invincible. But we took him out. That'll trigger the cutscene. That'll end the mission. And we'll be back as Master Chief in the next mission, Delta Halo. Join me for that one. A quick and easy one when it comes to LASO or otherwise. Thanks for watching, guys. If you found that video helpful, be sure to click on the scorpion icon to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. You can also check out some related guides by clicking on the videos on screen, and you can find links in the description for other social media links of mine. Stay tuned for more Halo guides, and I'll see you in the next one.